And it's 5 p.m. here in Germany. It's the end of the day at Electronica 2024 at Messe Munich. And I'm here again with Max. How's your day been?
The day's been great so far. Thank you, Brian, for having me on the show. Got to see a lot of robots and a lot of interesting tech moving around.
Yeah, and at the moment, we have an empty chair because we have a special guest coming who can't use a chair. So let's welcome our special guest. When he wants you, he will find you. There you go. That's very impressive.
Wow.
Let's welcome
impressive.
Daniel up onto stage. Passing the mic.
Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Max. Hi, Brian. Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure. I mean, this is very impressive, not only a piece of technology, but the software behind it, which is where you guys are specializing, right?
Yes, right. So the robot is based on ROS. It's called Robot Operating System. It's the biggest middleware for autonomous systems. It's middleware which is language independent, so you can program it either in Python or C, and it's running on Ubuntu. So everybody who has ever done anything hardware-based or embedded stuff, he will become very familiar with it very soon.
That's awesome. And you've been at the show a couple of days. You still got a couple more days to go. You're competing as a startup. How has the event been for you so far?
It was really great. We had really good conversations so far with very interested visitors, customers, and exhibitors. And fingers crossed for a few more exciting conversations.
Yeah, it's been long days. I don't know if you have a step counter.
Not yet, but could be a good choice for the next time.
Yeah, you think you can handle another couple of days of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this is an eye catcher. Wherever you go, people stop to take videos. So you've definitely got the right product here. And I'm glad to see our Elektor branding on the side. So at least we're getting the message out subliminally to the entire complex.
Of course, Elektor is a great partner, and we are very proud to put it on top and show it around.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Daniel, for joining us, however briefly. And let's see this big boy go downstairs now.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Daniel. Appreciate your time. That was pretty impressive.
One impressive robot.
Yeah. And speaking of impressive robots, tell us about the impressive robot you're working on there.
Sure. So this is a project that's currently in development. As you can see, the lid's not closed, so it's in its incomplete state. But overall, we're getting certain things working. I'm working with a team member I have hired to assist me with the project for the coding. It's a 6-legged robot. I call it the Hexa Scout. So it's supposed to be an all-terrain robot that can crawl over all sorts of different obstacles and pretty much anything that gets in its way. And the design itself is actually inspired by a roach, by a cockroach.
Yeah,
yeah, with the interesting tripodal gait that you'll see this robot uses to move itself forward and keep itself balanced. But I'm not able to demonstrate how it walks right now because it still needs a lot more coding work to be done. But overall, I have brought it this far and have designed the whole robot, basically assembled it all myself. And now getting some help with the coding. That's the Hexa Scout. Thanks,
Bring it
Brian.
out closer to the camera. Excuse my back, audience. But now that the dangerous robot dog has left, we can take out our delicates. And joining us now, Jens, you're not afraid of dogs, are you? But you were running the sound desk while that was happening.
No, I'm not really afraid of dogs, and I really like these robots. Just amazing what happened in the last years.
Yeah. This has been one of the most impressive demonstrations overall, but at least you had some time to run around today, as did I. What did you see that was interesting?
I just had 2 hours, 1.5. And yeah, for example, I was at the ST booth, and they have what was to expect, AI, and also AI in IoT. Yeah, for example, they have a small demonstration where they use an accelerometer. And you know, an accelerometer produces a lot of data
Yeah.
in the different axes, and sometimes it's hard to interpret what is
Well,
happening.
I know someone who can speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, but okay, the issue is that they have a lot of data, and yeah, it's hard to calculate what's happening. And they have an extra chip which is doing neural processing, so they can use these data to see what's actually happening. For example, if the accelerometer was shaked, or if it's falling down. So yeah, you have a lot of applications here, and I think that's an excellent application for AI at the edge. But there are many more things to see. If you are in Munich, you should definitely drop by at the ST booth. It's a really large booth with a lot of demonstrations.
Yeah, I haven't been to the ST booth yet, but the reason I gave Max the microphone is because you spoke of accelerometers. Have you battled with a lot of data coming from accelerometers?
I have, and as a matter of fact, even on the show, I've had some issues. But from the last live that we just had 3 hours ago, I was dealing with a project that involved an accelerometer. Well, I would say it's an accelerometer and gyro combo on a chip, and it was a FPV head tracker, which I happen to have in front of me right here. So this unit here tracks your head movements, and it's one that I built on the show we had previously, but it consists of a FPV headset that has the transmitting unit, and that has the accelerometer itself. So and that's the FPV head tracker right in front, right here. It's a 2-axis pan and tilt system that allows you to observe the environment remotely on another aircraft, So the part where the camera sits on a plane, for example, or in a cockpit, and gives you that kind of real VR experience. But the issue that I realized I had on the show with accelerometers is the tricky thing, that to calibrate them, it takes some time. And so when the previous show cut off, yeah, this sensor was actually, it wasn't that I fried the circuit, but it was that the sensor, once reconnected, it just took it some time to recalibrate and then return. But yeah, accelerometers are sensitive things, and they also can easily be effective from the induced EMI, electromagnetic interference. So yeah, I have faced issues building this robot in the past. Oh, not robot, sorry, drone. This drone had a lot of electromagnetic interference affecting it until I added a copper sheet in between the motor driver. The transistors have a lot of this EMI, which actually it affected the microcontroller and especially accelerometer on top of it. So I figured that when you isolate the source of the, when you remove the source of electromagnetic interference, then yeah, it solves a lot of problems for sensitive sensors as such.
Yeah, and you were on the show earlier, and you built that thing in like 57 minutes. And it worked for a few seconds just before the show ended, and I think safety fuse or something kicked in, and
the safety fuse must have saved it from being shorted, permanently damaged. But then after that, it still took time for the accelerometer to regain and calibrate, and then it worked once the show cut. But at least the people around got to see that, no, this thing works.
Yeah, it's your typical trusted companion. As soon as we wrapped up the show and played the end title, it woke up, and now it works. You want to give us a demo of that? Should I pick it up?
Yeah, sure. You can lift it up. Okay.
This is where you need a headset, Mike.
So right now, as Brian is holding it, you can see I am moving the FPV goggles. So, well, of course, these are intended to be on your head, this set of goggles, and you will see a live video feed right there being displayed, being transmitted from the camera. So if I move my head right, the 2-axis system pans the camera to the right, vice versa for the other side. And yeah, this system, the transmitting part uses the accelerometer, which gains your head movements data from your head movements. and then maps them onto the 2 servos. And that way you're able to observe your environment remotely, from a different point of view. So yeah, very fun project. CJ
wants to know what the range is.
The range of movement would be around 1 kilometer. For controlling the movement of the unit itself, but the video feed would probably be the range for that would be a lot shorter, like maybe a few hundred meters, 200 to 500 meters, I'd say. But no, it's a very simple setup. The coding and all that behind it is fairly simple. Also AI generated, which happens to be quite a interesting aspect to it. So this could be integrated into remote controlled gliders in the cockpit of planes or right underneath drones and stuff. So yeah, I have it connected with some loose wires, so I got to be careful here not to disconnect it. But I'll put the headset on. And as I pan my head left and right, it follows my head movements and maps them out. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And inside there, do you have 1 display or 2 screens?
In here, there's only 1 display. So there's no split screen, nothing. So it's not quite like VR. It's first person view. So there is 1 display. I'm probably able to show it.
Yeah, because Jens and I have played with stereo vision, so you use 2 cameras. That would be interesting if you could get 3D out of that.
Sure. Yep. I didn't quite understand.
If you had 2 cameras here and 2 displays, 1 for the left eye, 1 for the right eye, you could get a nice 3D view.
You could get a nice 3D effect, probably. I've seen how people have done it with Raspberry Pi cameras. They've put one and another together to give a really immersive effect. But personally, I haven't had experience with those type of setups.
There are even sets for Raspberry Pis from crowdfunding, crowdsource.
I guess it depends on how high you are if you're using it for aerial, because there's not much to see that's 3D when you're up 500 meters in the air. You'd have to move the cameras further apart. Well, you got it right. And 57 minutes, you got it right just in time. We had to move on to the next show. And now you got to display it in all its glory. So thanks for that. And Jens has told us what he looked at. Have you been around the fair?
I have been around the fair. Haven't spent too much time checking out other booths, but I've checked other sponsors out. I've checked other interesting startups right around the other side of the Elektor booth. And I got to say, I'm really impressed with every single one of them. They all have something very unique to offer. And I wish all the best to the startups who are competing there in the competition. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing those go through and seeing some more innovations come about. But I've walked around other booths as well and saw some very interesting things in the PCB space and robotics and a bit of AI and a mix of everything. So yeah, I'm very impressed, to say the least. It's the first time I've been to anything like this fair. So yeah.
I have a question about the drone. Maybe the readers are also interested. Are these normal components, and what components do you use?
For the drone, I'm using modular components. That has been done intentional so that anyone else can recreate it, can go to Amazon, for example, or any other store and get a ready-made module without having to do a lot of SMD component soldering, which actually requires more technical and intricate equipment. And I'm using components such as the Arduino Pro Mini, the MPU 6050 tilt sensor, so that's a microcontroller, then the gyro sensor, and then there's a radio frequency module which receives signals, a very popular component, the NRF24 module. So yeah, I'm using very well-known components among Arduino makers in general, and I've done that all intentional so that others can recreate it and make their own. And there has been a number of people I've heard back from who've made the drone. They're like, "Oh, Max, I made your mini Arduino FPV drone and it flies." And I mean, it's very heartwarming, very pleasing to hear that. Yeah.
Do you have a special source for these motors?
For the motors, I just go on Amazon. I get all my components either from Amazon, or if I see a company has something better to offer, then I'm willing to take that and use them. But for that drone, I used primarily components I ordered online. Yeah.
And what would the build cost of something like that be?
Around $50 plus minus 30. It could be very different. Depends all where you get your components from. It could even cost as much as $100. Well, who knows if you're in a different country, but the drone itself with all the hardware actually put in it, not the cost of all the listings like on Amazon. I have people come to me saying, oh, it actually costs a lot more than what you said, but they're also counting the price of all the other components they're buying. But with everything put in it, around $50. Yeah.
And how do you control it?
You control the drone with an Arduino transmitter, radio transmitter, which I have back at my booth, side of the booth there, and it uses an Arduino Nano with another NRF24 radio module, and it transmits just 2.4 gigahertz frequency over up to a range of 1 kilometer. So yeah, very good control range on such a little drone. Well, actually, I must correct myself there, 100 meters, because the antenna on this drone is the shortened type, not the power amplified. But yeah, those kind of modules can reach a range of 1 kilometer when paired one to another with the power amplified version.
Okay, so I have a DJI drone, which means everything's proprietary and pretty expensive if you crash it, and I can't fix it myself. So you got the drone, that's $50. But you also need somewhere to control it. And of course, you want the FPV viewer. So tell us about that a little bit, because I've got no experience in this the special kinds of controller that you might need in FPV with analog view.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking about what type of controller you need for.
Yeah, because I
more
mean,
technical
like I said, I've
drones.
got the DJI that's proprietary and it uses digital video, and I don't have FPV goggles, but you're leaning more towards lower cost, open source most of the time. So what would you use as a controller? And I see you've got a FPV goggles. Yeah, where'd you get that? Tell us about that.
About the FPV goggles, let me start with that first. So I stick to analog because, first of all, that's what I'm experienced with. So I just find it reliable. It has a limited range. That's its downside, but it has very low latency, and you can get very affordable options. Like this is an $80 set of FPV goggles, and you can get all sorts of different analog cameras. There's a lot of options out there for tiny 3-gram FPV cameras, like on the mini drone, like on the FPV head tracker. And I just find analog a lot easier to work with. But for transmitters, my personal preference is building them, because I just like making things, not so much about just buying a transmitter. But in many cases, it saves you a lot of time buying the transmitter to control the thing. Like, for example, instead of building a transmitter for my robot, I decided, why not make it app controlled? It's the new thing, everything Wi-Fi, this and that, automated and controlled. So I stuck with that. But in general, I also like building radio controllers. It's fun building them and fun seeing the end result of them connecting with the thing and matching your movements. So yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing them wake up today and come to life. And
yeah, I'm very pleased to see that project I built on the spot has finally worked.
It worked for a few seconds.
Yeah, the camera caught it in
Yeah.
the previous live.
The evidence is on camera, folks. Just rewatched the show earlier today. And again, I've been at the stage a lot of the day, but I've seen the big guns are out. Texas Instruments has a big stand with their usual fare. And I've seen, although Raspberry Pi doesn't have a stand, they are visiting with other people. And we had Evan Upton on earlier today. But while they don't have a stand, they're everywhere. Wherever I go past booth, there's RP 2040 and RP 2350. So they are making quite a big impact on the industry. It's sad to say, what stops me a lot of the times are LED displays, because they're in your face. But behind the scenes, they're doing a lot of impressive things in industrial automation. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more tomorrow before we have more exciting shows for you tomorrow. But in the morning, I'll have a little bit of time to run around. Also, New Power. They are supply chain logistics. So that sounds very boring, but if you've seen their stand, they've got racing car simulators with 3 screens, and they've got a giant screen. They've got people competing. So people pull out all the stops to make a stand where people will stop and take a look, pretty much like we have. And we've got these robots lumbering onto the stage, which also helps grab attention. So it's been fun so far, for me at least. But another 2 days of this, so we'll see how many 12,000 steps today so far. But that's better than setup day when I got 20,000.
Seems like you had a great time, and I've gotten lots of inspiration from just walking around the first 2 days. And I look forward personally seeing some innovations in 3D printing electronics, specifically the PCBs. I'm still seeing if there is anyone out there who's making the circuits themselves on boards and all that, but with techniques that you can do from home, maybe from a 3D printer. So still checking that out and seeing if it's possible to integrate with my maker level projects. I'm also interested in seeing how AI will integrate with a lot of the lower cost hardware, so us makers can also implement that into our projects. But I'll be checking more things out in the coming days and seeing what else these booths have to offer.
Yeah, and I've been neglecting the online audience a bit, getting all excited with your projects. Baltic Lab is back saying good evening, everyone. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi there.
And Michael Walker says hi from York, UK. And there's a hi from Russia as well. So thanks to the audience for joining us. I think this is a later time for, a 5 p.m. show. It's pretty late for us. So thank you, everyone, for joining us from around the world.
Thank you all for
Jens,
joining.
do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to add?
Not yet.
Okay. You're going to add something as you go and take a walkabout tomorrow and the next day.
Yes.
And then I think by Friday, we're going to be pummeled. I'm going to miss my flight early Saturday morning because I'll be fast asleep. So that's the wrap up for today from Electronica 2024. And thanks again, Max, for coming out all the way. It's so much better to have you live right next to me than.
Well, thank you, Brian. It's a great pleasure being brought here and having my own stand and being able to connect with my audience in person. It's great to finally meet people who have been watching my videos, some of whom who've also driven all the way down from other parts of the country, Germany, just to visit me, which is crazy in itself. So I'm grateful for every single one of you watching who have met me. And for those who haven't been to Electronica yet, I highly recommend checking it out, because even if you just come here for one day, it's worth the experience. So definitely a great experience to take part in.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's worth it for you, and it's worth it not only for you. We had Great Scott on yesterday, and later on in the week, we've got Peter Delmaris, KiCad, joining us live, just like you did, and just like Great Scott did. And we've got DIY guy Chris, who's actually sitting here, who comes to us from Tunisia. So people from all over the world. I don't know if I mentioned Delmaris from Australia, Western Hemisphere. I won't say where, undisclosed location. And then, of course, Great Scott from here in Germany. So that's our wrap up for today. I think we've covered quite a lot. We've had a lot of fun. And I think it's time to wind down. So thanks to our online audience for joining us. And thanks for our live audience. And to the robot from Quadruped Robotics for coming up on stage and banging things around a bit. And to Daniel. Thanks a lot and goodbye.
Goodbye.